What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to do another really kind of fun, really different Batman Arkham video than what I think you guys are used to, what I'm used to recording. I want to talk about 5 villains that need to return, some reoccurring villains that we've already seen in the Arkham franchise be in Arkham 2020. Now, a long time ago, back in November, which doesn't seem that long ago, but think about where we are right now. I talked about 3 villains in general the game needs. This could include new, this could include old, but again, in this one I only want to talk about like reoccurring ones. I do think the game absolutely needs new villains. I think that's a really big thing that needs to be put in this game. At the same time, there is a blend, and also at the same time twice, when you have a game like this, a reimagining, a soft reboot, whatever you want to call it, this provides the opportunity for really every villain, if you really want to like have a cop-out answer, it really honestly has all the villains be brand new, because you get to introduce them again, but you get to introduce them in your own way, in a different way than we've ever seen them before. We talked about it a few days ago. They could have different voice actors or actresses, all that kind of stuff. So honestly, the potential is very, very big, and there are several. I made a list of 5 again, but I really could have kept going. I had to kind of cap myself on where I wanted to be. Again, if you guys like these kinds of videos, definitely let me know in the comments. You guys have been doing a really good job supporting them. I think the next video is going to be a speculation video. I know some people aren't going to like that, but then we'll, we're going to go back and forth. We're going to have speculation videos, and then we're going to do fun videos like this. So let's go over 5 characters, and as always, guys, let me know, and you guys always do, but just as a reminder, let me know in the comments the villains you would want to see return. Number 1, this is not a character that I even think of all that much, and I truly don't know why, is Harley. Harley Quinn is a phenomenal, I believe, a truly, truly good character in all of the Arkham games. I think she, Tara Strong, which I saw a lot of people say, I completely forgot about her, right, when I was talking about voice actors, and I was saying, well, Troy Baker, like, yes or no, do you do Roger Craig Smith, like, how do you, is Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy, like, truly done? I completely forgot about Tara Strong, who literally, I like Margot Robbie's, portrayal of Harley on the big screen. I think she does a really, really great job, especially like looks, but voice-wise, I think Tara Strong does a super, probably the best, does a really, really amazing job overall as Harley. It's a character that can be deep depending on where you want to go from her, with her, and again, reimagining, so it doesn't have to be the same Harley. It could be like Harleen Quinzel, right? They could go that route depending on time period, depending on what they want to do with her, but they could have a different look. They could go more, like actual like comic booky. They could go maybe even more towards what they've done with the movies recently. They could do a blend. Lots of different stuff they could do overall. Again, she doesn't have to be a main character or main villain, right? She maybe be like a side wheel thing. Does she have to be super connected to Joker? Not necessarily. She could be on her own. There's lots of stuff they could do with her. She's been, a very, very solid role in all of the Arkham games. I think she's done a truly awesome job, and I honestly would miss an Arkham game if she wasn't in it. So in terms of reoccurring villains, if I had to rank them, these aren't necessarily in ranking order, but weirdly enough, I feel like I'd put Harley like in my top 1 or 2. I truly, truly would. Number 2 is the age-old one, the one that a lot of people would probably get mad at, but I throw him in on every single list I can possibly think of, is Joker. We've gone over the reasons, so I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna bore you guys to death with the reasons, but we talked about it. And again, using what I've said in this video as like a new way of talking about it, again, reimagining, doing things different, doing things new. He doesn't have to be the main character. He doesn't have to be the main villain, right? Joker could be a side villain. He could be in like that villain wheel. He could be attached to the main story. He could not be. You get to pick. Do you want to have one of the people that have already voiced him? Do you want somebody else? Do you want his look to be different? What's his motivations? All that kind of stuff. Again, it gives you the opportunity to change stuff up. Again, like, do you want to do something different with him and Harley? Because their relationship was never really, like, I'd say the deepest it went was really in Arkham Knight, when like Harley really, broke down because of his death and like really went her own way and kind of like emerged as her own kind of villain. That was maybe the most depth I believe that those two had. So maybe they could do something with that. In order to do that, you need both. You can't just have Harley and not the Joker. So it would be very interesting to see. But again, with a reimagining, with a soft reboot, with being able to pick what you want to do, I really think the Joker, as I've always said, I really do think he's a necessity. The third one is a character that I've talked about also quite a bit, and one that I definitely think was done dirty in that Scarecrow, and we've talked about that, right? I think, obviously, in the first game, Arkham Asylum, right, in terms of like when they were released. He was really, really cool, very unexpected, but his scenes became some of the most iconic Arkham scenes we've ever had. Truly, I mean, the game breaking itself, basically, and I've told you guys the story before where I was literally reaching for my PlayStation 3 to turn it off before the game, like, kept going, and I realized that it wasn't my PlayStation, but I was truly reaching for that button, and I'll always remember that because that was such a cool moment. But really, all the Scarecrow scenes, again, not really knowing what was real, what wasn't real. Obviously, you can tell now, but back in the day when you were playing it for the first time, you really, a lot of them, some of them you could, but not all of them. Really, really great character, and then obviously took quite a bit of time off, and then re-emerged in Arkham Knight, and I absolutely loved his design. I think, going from Arkham Asylum to Arkham Knight, obviously everything looked so good in Arkham Knight. It was one of the most pretty games of its time, and still even right now, it's aged, I think, really, really well. But to even just see, like, oh my god, like, this is what Scarecrow looks like now. Again, I think a very, very solid villain. They just moved completely away from him. They focused on the Arkham Knight, they focused on Joker, and they really started to push that, especially around halfway through the game, and we've said that before, and they just kind of left Scarecrow just there. Like, he was still there, and he would sometimes go over, like, the intercom and stuff, and I'd say, like, the last, like, hour and a half, obviously, like, his plan, right? Like, he actually achieved his plan, and you had to stop him. So, like, he came back, but for the most part, they just let him go. So, again, kind of like a redemption story, kind of like, you didn't really, you had your chance, and you wasted it. You had your chance to make him the main villain. I think a lot of people were pretty shocked. I know I was, when they first announced Arkham Knight, and, like, it was, yeah, I mean, it's called Arkham Knight, so that's going to be a big part of it, and is it Jason Todd? Are they going to go that route? They all said that they weren't, and then they did. But then, like, Scarecrow, oh man, like, they're putting him front and center, like, he is the main villain. Remember, we didn't know if Joker was going to be in it or not at the time. I thought he was going to be in it. I just thought he was going to be in it in a different way than they did it. But, like, they had their chance for him to lead a game, and maybe that was never their intention, right? Maybe they wanted to promote it like that, but then obviously never do it, and they didn't. I mean, he really did not lead Arkham Knight. Arkham Knight and Joker did, I would argue. So, again, reimagining, you get to do them a little bit differently. And another thing to remember with all of these villains, by the way, is you get to pick, I've said it, you get to pick, like, their age and, like, when it's happening. But that's very important, right? Because whether it's, like, you're going to reference some of the events of the other games, which I don't know if they would do. It's possible, but it's unlikely. But you could pick in the early days, again, kind of like in Arkham Origins. But again, Arkham Origins also wouldn't exist maybe in this world. So you could have origin stories for these villains. You could have them in their early days. You could maybe even assume that maybe they'll eventually get to the point that they were in Arkham Asylum City Knight. But for right now, they're, like, different. And again, you don't, like, they could say, like, those games don't exist, but in our heads, we could still imagine it, right? We're allowed to do that. But they get to do whatever they want with the basically early years of a lot of these characters. Again, I've said it a lot. I think this game is going to be taking place in the earlier years of Batman, kind of like the Batman movie. I really do think that is specifically, like, done for a reason. I think it's going to be close to the same thing with the game. So for Scarecrow, again, we get to see him a little bit differently. It's Warner Bros. Montreal's take on his fear toxin. We can get to see what they want to do with it. They could do, I mean, look, the idea of messing with Batman's mind is really cool. It's really complex. You don't have to do it the same way that you did it in, the original 4 games. You could do it much, much differently. And again, complete, like, a refresh. So I think the potential, honestly, for Scarecrow is one of the highest on this list and in general. Number 4 is another character I've talked about quite a bit that I just personally love, is Killer Croc. He's been in and out, whether it be in, like, somewhat major roles, whether it be in side missions, whether it be things like that, in really all of the games. And I've always truly, truly loved Killer Croc. I love his design. Basically, I just love how he looks. I'm a really big sucker for water. Maybe you guys don't know that. I don't really talk about that all that much. But in my personal life, oh my god, like pools, waterfalls, stuff like that. I will do anything that has to do with water. Although I don't drink much of it, I do love the concept of water. So anybody that has to do with water, underwater things, stuff like that, I'm a huge, huge sucker for. So Killer Croc appeals to me. And again, I mean, that's pretty much all I can say. I think also, again, he was done really good at times. He was also done not so well in other times. Again, once we got on with the games, he was more regulated to definitely a super, super backup role, right, where he's not, like, in the front of things. And he never was. I'm not saying, he was like the number one villain of Arkham Asylum, but I think there's a good blend. you can have with Killer Croc. And again, it's new. You get to pick your design for him. Do you want him to be a little bit smaller, a little bit younger? Like, what do you want to do with that character? And again, just like the concept of how you would fight him too in the water, if they could think of a different way of doing that, I think would be so cool. So there's again, the possibilities are very, very high for him. I'm not like, I guess I am. I'm crossing my fingers that he'll be in this game and they'll do something cool. I'm not expecting it. I'm just hoping that because if he's in the game, then I guess I would be expecting something cool. But at this point, like, I'm not holding my breath being like, oh my God, if he's not in this game, like, it's over. We'll have to see ultimately when they talk about it more. And the fifth is maybe not necessarily a villain, but it's Catwoman. I really, think, because I was writing this list and I was thinking, okay, you got Bane, and I actually just thought of Bane like a couple minutes ago. You got Bane, you have Riddler. We've talked about some of those characters before. And by the way, I think a lot of the characters even I haven't said on this list that have been in previous games, like Zaz, other characters like that, I think they would all work. And we've always talked about it. Like, there are tons Batman's got so many amazing villains that have been realized so well in these games. And I'd want, honestly, Two-Face, Penguin, I didn't say those two. Those are all characters that I would want in this new game, but I don't want them to take away. This is the biggest thing I think you guys should take away. I don't want them to take away from new villains. So I do definitely acknowledge, like, we need probably 5 to 8 new villains, I think is a pretty fair number, which is around what we had, I would say, like with Arkham Knight. Like, we got a bunch of villains that a lot of people have never really seen before, or at least never really seen in the games, right? So I think we need another batch like that. So that's my biggest contrast. I want all of the villains we've seen so far. I want all of them in this game, but at the same time, I realize you can only have so many, and you do need new ones. And so I think that old ones, some of them, need to kind of be retired or pushed out for some of the new ones. So that doesn't mean that they can't come back in future Batman games. Doesn't mean they can't come back in Justice League games or other games that just Batman's featured in. I mean, they can definitely do that, and that's honestly what's really, really exciting about this DC universe they're building. But Catwoman, you could argue, isn't even necessarily a villain. But like I was saying, when I was writing this list down, I was trying to think of like my most fond memories of these characters. And with Catwoman, I thought of Arkham Knight. I truly loved the relationship between her and Batman, or Bruce Wayne, in that game. I think it was phenomenal. I loved the tag teaming. I liked the dynamic with them, like with the Riddler. I like how they did that whole thing, kind of having her arc be with the Riddler and Batman. But it was really cool. And honestly, that last, so if you like 100% the game and stuff, like when you're saying goodbye to her and that kind of stuff, it was sad. Like, I felt emotional about it because it was like, you know what? I think she's a phenomenal character. And these two, Kevin Conroy with her, they work so well together. And it's like, I really want to see more of them. And obviously, this is it for this game. And then we didn't know, what was coming after Arkham Knight, or if anything was coming after Arkham Knight. So I just think back to that, truly. Like, when I'm thinking about it, I think back to that. And I think, you know what? That worked so well. And I think it could work again. And also, again, under this new approach that we're taking for this video, you get to do maybe an origin. Maybe it could be the first time they ever meet each other. I mean, the potential there. And you know what? Telltale did it too. And I think, honestly, Telltale did it super good. I've never cared about Bruce. I actually would say Bruce Wayne, because Bruce Wayne was in it quite a bit. Bruce and Selena Kyle, I've never cared about those two together so much more than the Telltale game. So I think they know what they're doing. I think it's been done before now, both in Arkham Knight and in Telltale's games. And I would definitely want to see her return, not just as a character, but as not even just, by the way, because of like a romance thing, but just to see her relationship bounce off of Batman would be really, really cool. I'm definitely rooting. The more I talk about it, the more I feel like I'm more passionate about her than anybody else. But we'll definitely have to see. So guys, there's 5 villains for you that I think need to return. Like I said, I mean, there's Bane, Zaz, Two-Face, Penguin, loads, Mr. Freeze. I mean, the list goes on and on. Obviously, there are new villains that have never been in games before. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think. What are some of the villains that you want to return? What are some new villains you want in this game? And please let me know if you guys like these kind of videos. Best way to do it is just by supporting it, just by giving it that view, watching it as much as you can. I know people don't really talk about watch time, but it really does help. So things like that, just to show me that you guys want me to do more of that. Like I said, the next video is going to be more speculation, but then after that, we'll sprinkle in. We'll do a couple more fun ones. We can talk about villains. I have some other ideas. I want to talk about multiplayer for the new game. So a lot of fun stuff coming up. And obviously, when anything is talked about or revealed for this new new game, we'll do that as well, okay? Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video.